Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another video. This was supposed to be a Wander Wednesday, however, unfortunately, turns out it's going to have to be a Wander Thursday. I ended up getting a little bit sick yesterday, and while I'm still a little bit under the weather, I was able to make this video for you today. So, today what deck I'm going to bring you, if you haven't already looked at the title, we're going to be talking about a deck that I found, I think it was online initially from some European Wanderer events, and then this was back when Wanderer wasn't really even on the map for the company or for players in general a lot, and it was just mainly the people who were really invested in it that were playing it. And then we had a Wanderer side event at a New Frontiers GP, and a few people brought it there too. And that deck is Brunhild Seal. So what is Brunhild Seal, for example? So it revolves around Pandora, Queen of Miracles, which has the effect to release the seal abilities of light cards and spells you control. That means that even if you're at 1 stone, no stones, however many stones, the seal effect of your light cards is going to be fully active. So the main payoff cards that we see with this are going to be number 13, which becomes a 0 mana cancel spell, Mysteries of Almerius, which allows us to put up to 3 cards from our grave into our hand instead of just a singular card, and then Mysteries of Zero, which functions as a form of removal for us. So those are the main payoffs for it, and then we have a few ways that we're going to cheat in Pandora. We can just naturally cast Pandora in the deck. We'll get into the stone lineup in a little bit. However, what we're mainly going to work on is getting Pandora dumped into the grave and then using our runes, because we're Brunhild, in order to resurrect her on the first turn of the game. And how we do that, we have a couple ways. We have Planting Beans. So Planting Beans can send a card from our decks just straight to the grave. So any card we want just can go straight to the grave. Or if we look down on the rune deck here, we're also going to be playing Harvesting Season in the rune deck. Now this will also come into play later. Planting Beans straight into Pandora is the most consistent. However, Planting Beans is 1 mana. Just total mana cost, it is 1 mana, which means it can be countered by Garyon. So if your opponent's on green Energize and you expect they're going to Garyon you, calling a stone, getting a Darkness Source, and playing Harvesting Season because its actual total cost is 2, but you just play it for 1 from your rune deck, and milling the top 10 cards of your deck, and then attempting to Einherjar summon is sort of a way to play around Garyon. Now, in that case, Garyon can also cancel Einherjar's summon, which is very funny. If you haven't seen Garyon's text, it does say cancel a spell with converted mana cost 1 or less. So it can cancel Einherjar's summon. So if your opponent, hopefully they're not aware of that, or they just don't know, or they let it go through because they don't know what the deck's doing. But we get Pandora out into play early with Einherjar summon because she is a human. She's a 400-700 body, which is decently large in most cases. We've kind of reached a point where a lot of removal is very efficient, so it might not be enough for very heavy-based removal decks. However, as soon as she enters play, our number 13s are live, etc., etc. Brad is also in here because he gets cards with Seal from your grave into your hand. He does also kind of function as a quasi-counter spell while he's in play. And then he just keeps shuffling himself back into the deck as well. So he kind of functions as a way to prevent yourself from losing. But the main thing is he gets cards with Seal back. So he can get number 13s back. He can get Mysteries of Almerius back. Those would be the main 2. But it is an option. And just a decent option. The other thing, we'll get into Brad in just a second, is we're playing March of the Dead. So I'm playing March of the Dead with a little bit heavier emphasis on darkness, partially to be able to cast Harvesting Season if we want to on the first turn of the game. And March of the Dead plays very well with Pandora because Pandora is a 2-drop. So if our Pandoras keep dying, so on and so forth, we can keep bringing them back. But with March of the Dead, we want more payoff than just Pandora. So our other payoff comes in the form of Brad, Dark Alice Rabbit Princess, which we all know she's just a good consistency card for light decks and prevents your grave from being dealt with, like being removed and stuff like that in the event that your opponent has a way to deal with your Pandora, your grave, like Evil Elemental Uprising, stuff like that. So it protects your graveyard. And then Ray, the Black Owl. Ray is our form of protection, I guess you should say. So if you're unaware, this is the flip side of Ray, the inverse side. So if you look at Ray's front, it's at the beginning of your main phase, so you have to go through a turn, but you flip Ray over. And then 0, the Ray on the backside, entities you control gain whenever this is targeted by a spell or ability. Cancel that spell or ability. This ability only triggers once per turn. We don't have anything in the deck that's really targeting cards in play, at least from our side. So we're never going to proc the 0 effect, right? Because it works for both players. It's just the first time they would be targeted, not first time by your opponent. However, this makes it so that our opponent has to forcibly target them with something and then do something else in order to kill it, because we'll cancel off the first activated effect. So that is the form of protection we're playing. We can also just hard cast Ray because we're in darkness. 2-drop again. 2-drop sorcery speed cards are very good currently, so, or at least they're the most safe to get into play currently. So that is why we have the Rays in the deck. I bumped up the count to 3 partially because if you harvesting season earlier, it's more of a chance to get Ray into your graveyard. Down under here, just your typical cancel suite that we've seen time and time again in a lot of these decks. Lorite, Garyon, Fair's Spell. I went a little bit heavier on the Fair's spells. The Garyon and the Lorite, partially I just wanted more quick cast cancel stuff. I wanted to win cancel wars more with number 13 and stuff like that, and go for less potential stifle effects. You can change the numbers around. You can go to 2 Fair spells and then 4 Garyon, 4 Lorite. That is possible if you want. But the deck, outside of getting the Pandora into play and then playing the number 13s for free, the deck does suffer from not playing mana positive, right? We don't have anything that's cheating mana in here or anything like that. We're playing at mana neutral the whole time. Every time we just go up 1 mana per turn. The only difference to that is Pandora releasing the seal for number 13 specifically. So I just wanted very efficient counter spells for the most part. 3 Garyon, 3 Lorite, and then 1 Horn. The Horn it's a form of removal, or not removal, but a form of disruption for other grave type decks. It can help protect us in some cases, like if you planting beans, or not even if you planting beans, like if you harvesting season and you hit, let's say, all 4 of your Pandoras for some reason, and your opponent's like, okay, well, in response to your Einherjars, I'll remove all of them, or I'll like Evil Elemental Uprising your grave or something like that. Well, Evil Elemental Uprising wouldn't work because it can't be chased. But some effect to like remove your entire grave. Horn just functions to put it back. It also functions to prevent you from losing the game. Same kind of thing as Brad if it potentially goes to deck out. As you can see, you aren't really heavy on like big hitters, like a lot of damage or anything like that. You're just supposed to slowly prevent your opponent from playing the game. Any big threat that they have early, you number 13, and then you kill them with and then you kill anything that sticks that isn't as much of a threat with Mysteries of Zero, clean up the board, and then just kind of resource loop them out of the game. Looking at the stone lineup, we have 4 Moonshade. We are technically 4 color with this version. Green because of Planting Beans, Darkness because of Harvesting Season, March of the Dead and Ray, White because of Pandora and the Mysteries of Almerius and Mysteries of Zero, as well as Dark Alice, and then blue specifically for Mysteries of Almerius, but we want those online as quickly as possible. So 4 Moonshade to cover as many colors as possible. 3 Black Silence because we primarily want Darkness as our second color, since we aren't really casting the light cards until later in the game for more value, more efficiency, stuff like that. 2 Gusting Skies, same kind of deal, just lower count, but it's the next one up. And then 1 Deepwood because we do want that blue, and so giving it kind of like a 1 in 2 chance to get it pretty early into the game in order to play our Mysteries of Almerius is what we're trying to do. For the rune deck, we've already gone over Einherjar Summon and Harvesting Season. For the rest of it, I just went with as much of a value package as possible. It's kind of hard. You can kind of gauge what you want going into an event or like your locals depending on what people play. So you could add like Dispel or like other tech options to play around other players. But this is just like the basic just value package, completely outside of the Einherjars and Harvesting Season. So Blade of Faith, just a super efficient master rune to remove Resonators. Explore the Unknown just gets you a free Lorite, gets you a free Garyon, gets you a Brad, and just gets a free card to your hand. And then Whispers of an Angel just draws you a card and gains you some life. They're all single mana to play, except Explore the Unknown is 0 from your rune deck. So it's just a bunch of free cards. So anyway, that is the deck for today. Thank you all so much. Again, I apologize for not being able to release this yesterday. Tomorrow I will be releasing a spoiler vid, and then I'll probably also be doing a tournament report for the for GP Milan as well as GP Mexico. I don't remember exactly where it was, but the GP in Mexico and the GP in Milan. We'll be doing kind of a tournament report, compiling the data from those, and then I'll probably be adjusting my tier list that I made using the American event and those two events all together in that video as well. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.